it's always good to listen to it in a fresh way. It is not about what we know, but it's about listening to it in a fresh way and recognizing the direct and the simple pointer that is taking us to our own being. So when we look at any thought, whatever thought it might be, first of all, thoughts are of two kinds. Generally speaking, it's important to be clear about. There is the functional thinking that is necessary for day-to-day living, getting the directions to go from one place to another, the technology that we use, the various functional needs of life which need thinking, which is essential. But then there is also what is called as psychological thinking, which is the thinking about the self. Am I good enough? Am I better than the other person? Am I being validated? Am I seeking recognition? Am I worried? Comparing with others? All of this is thinking also. But this is the thinking that causes suffering. This is the thinking that creates conflict and misery. So to be free of psychological thinking is the ending of the false self. The other thinking then falls in the right place. In fact, that is the meaning of true meditation, and that's the meaning of the word art as well. Art is to put things in their right place. So even if we look at the house, it looks aesthetic when things are in their right place. When things are all over and chaotic, then it looks messy. Inwardly, to put things in their right place is the art of meditation. That is, thinking is put where thinking is necessary, and where thinking is not needed, it's not employed. That is the art of meditation. So to come upon that, which is to be still within and have thinking only for what is necessary, requires us to be free of this false narrative of a psychological self. And this false narrative of psychological self is built through identities that we believe ourselves to be. We believe ourselves to be various identities projected by the mind. There is the physical reality, which is functional, and there is the psychological identity that's projected by the mind. For instance, even biologically, we may be biologically a male or a female. That is a physical reality. But there can be a psychological identity of being a man or a woman. And then one can feel superior or inferior, feel a victim, feel the whole patriarchal feelings or the feeling of being dominated, dominating. All of this gender bias, all of this is psychological thinking. So there is the biological reality which has no problem, which is necessary. We see it in animals, we see it in all species. But the psychological identity of gender causes conflict. Same with everything. If I am living in a country and I have a passport, that is a functional reality of living here. But the psychological reality is identification with the nationality and thinking that this nation is better than that nation and having this us versus them attitude and all of that. Same with religion, same with work, same with relationship. And relationship especially is something we went into in detail because that is where we really see the me operating. When I'm relating to my partner or my boss or my child or my parent or whoever it is, there is the functional relating that is again a reality. If there is a father son or a mother daughter or an employer employee relationship, the relationship is functionally necessary and it has its role. But to build an image around that relationship and being attached to that image of oneself and the other is the root of suffering. And then there is all the various games that the me plays, trying to impress others, trying to please others, trying to show, trying to claim credit, all of that. So all of this is rooted in the sense of me. So the simple pointer is, and always is, that every identity is important to us because we think I am that. So in every identity, there is two components to it. There is the identity and there is the sense of I am. I am a man, and if I have this identity, then it becomes important. I am an American or I am an Indian. I am an employee of company XYZ. I am a father or a mother. In all of this, the common factor is I am. The word after I am keeps changing. So throughout the day also, if we notice, there are different identities that we take on, and we seem to each moment believe in that identity as me, but in reality, every identity is only a thought. The thought that I am belonging to this nation or religion or all the rest we talked about. But the reason all of that seems so important is because I feel I am that. I'm not very interested in the politics of, let's say, some nation in Africa or Europe because I feel I am here and I am identified with it. It's one thing to be aware of what's going on for what is necessary, but it's another thing to be identified and taking sides and being affected by it, liking, disliking, all of this. So, all of these factors, from the personal to the social, political, economic, international, all of this has an impact only because it is the sense of I am that is associated with it. So the pointer is to recognize that the sense of I am, when it identifies itself with any thought, the thought becomes the identity of me. So to see that the common factor is I am, and therefore to go to that common factor is to go back the way we come. So once, in a simple way, once one it was asked to Ramana Maharishi, what's the way to our own being? He said, go back the way you came. Vanda valiye sel. So what does that mean? So the way we come up as an identity is through this sense of me that's rising in the heart as a separative entity, which is identified with various thoughts as I am this or that. So a simple way to recognize it is when we wake up in the morning, especially if we had a good deep sleep and we wake up, then we look at the place around, the room around, and then this sense of me rises spontaneously and places itself as, oh, I am this body situated in this room. The room becomes outside me and I become, so in an instant, this me rises and identifies itself with the body, and places itself in time and space as this entity. So this rising spontaneously of this energy of me is the source of all separation. So when we say the word Maya, it includes everything that changes. We were talking about it yesterday. Whatever changes is Maya. What is unchanging is the truth. So at a phenomenal level, everything changes. The body is changing, this house is changing. We were told that this was a forest just a few years ago, and now it's a beautiful house. Um, Thoughts change once, everything can change. So whatever changes is Maya. But that aspect of Maya which causes delusion is the coming and going of the sense of me. So when we go to deep sleep, this me goes into abeyance and there is peace. And when we wake up, the me rises spontaneously on its own, and it immediately latches on to some identity of whatever it is, the relation, the nationality, the religion, whatever it is. So to go back the way we come is basically to retrace it, which is to recognize that it is thought that is superimposed on the sense of this me that is causing identity. So the important factor is not thought, but the sense of me that's rising spontaneously. And that sense of me that's rising is, the key word is spontaneous. It's rising on its own. There is no volition, there is no thinking involved. It is an energetic rising, as we said. The energy that is rising in the heart is me. And this is why, of course, in every culture, in every religion, everywhere, people touch their heart and say, I. Right? There is a natural tendency to refer, even here, when people take oath, they touch this book and they touch the heart and they take oath. I. So this sense of me rises in the heart. It's an energetic movement that is the seed of separation for each one of us. So to first come upon that is already recognizing that this sense of separation that's rising spontaneously is what is coming up as all these identities. So the problem is not the identity, but the sense of separation. The same person who is in one country hates another country. If he were born in that country, he would hate this country, because the common factor is the me. It's not the merit or the demerit of the same thing we see with conflicts. The one who's identified with, take any favorite geopolitical issue, identified with one, he hates the other. But the reality that is being missed is they are both exactly the same. The content of what the identity is at odds with each other, but the sense of separation is the same. So that sense of separation is in each one of us, and that's what's causing conflict. That sense of separation identifies itself with thought and creates an image of this is who I am in relation to anyone else. If I am living with another person, then I have an image of that person. And then this image is relating to that image, believing this image to be me. So all of this goes on. So the simple but very easy to miss, therefore it requires us to carefully look at it, is the sense of me, which is the seed of separation rising in the heart, is the root of all identities. And that sense of separation, which is me, rises spontaneously. and it is what we call Maya. It is the root of separation itself. And wanting to get rid of it is again another identity that comes forth that says, I have to get rid of it. So, therefore, that is not helping us, because that's again creating this desire to be free of the me, which is another desire. So the simple pointer here is to recognize all this. We don't do anything, we don't try to end the me, we don't try to, we just recognize it's rising spontaneously, and it's rising spontaneously as an expression of the divine energy. That very recognition frees us from identifying with it strongly. Until now, we are unconsciously identified strongly that I am this person and I am this. Now we peel the layer and we recognize that none of those identities are important, but they seem important because they are identified or associated with the sense of me. And the sense of me is rising in the heart without any content. The sense of me rises and it immediately latches on to some content to become XYZ. So that sense of identity, which is coming from the separation of me, when we recognize the sense of separation and just remain as it, then it dissolves into the source of the expansive beingness. As was rightly pointed out earlier, we don't even have to talk about or project that it dissolves into an expansive sense of beingness, because that might again become another projection that is a desire. So there is a beautiful verse which in fact refers exactly to all of this in Arunachala Pancharatnam, where Ramana Maharshi says, Ahamiti kuta ayatiti anvishyantah pravishtaya ati amaladhiya avagamya swam rupam shamyat yarunachala twayi nadivabdhav. So aham iti kuta ayat. Where is this I rising from? Look into this. So that's what we just did. We look at the sense of identity. We recognize that all of this is rising from the heart as the sense of me. Inquire into it. Anvishyanta pravishtaya ati amaladhiya. With a clear, amaladhiya means with clarity, with pure, clear perception. And that is what is inquiry. Inquiry means not be muddled, not get caught in various philosophies, whether Advaita is right, Dvaita is right. All of this is muddling the mind. None of this matters. Which is the right philosophy, which is the right religion, whether there is, this speculation, we talked about it yesterday about rebirth or whether about karma. There is so many factors that can come and muddle. To remove all this and see very simply and directly that all of this is there because of the identity, and the identity is there because of the sense aham, me. Inquire into that with a clear perception. Then he says, Shamyati, it subsides just as a river subsides in an ocean. Nadiva abdhav. Nadi means the river, abdhav means in the ocean. So the ocean is the expansive beingness, and the seed of separation as me is the river. The river coming forth, when it goes back into the ocean, then there is the expansive beingness. But we don't have to project any goal around merging into this ocean of beingness. We just remain as the river where it begins. The very source of the river is the sense of separation rising in the heart. And when we recognize that and we remain as that, That is meditation. And in every interaction, we can recognize the same sense of me that is coming forth as all the various judgments and anger and all the rest is all coming forth from this sense of me. So there were a couple of good questions which are good to go over again. One was, as we already said, should we even project that this me dissolves into this expansive sense of beingness? And we don't need to. Because the moment we project that, that's again thought projecting something. And in the process, we are again coming back as the thief who pretends to be the cop. So we just remain as this sense of separation at the seed, which is the me, as I am, without any content associated with the I am. And feel the energy that it's very energetic at that point. It's not a thought anymore. It is just an energy that's rising in the heart, which is coming up spontaneously, which is the play of the Divine Mother. It's coming up spontaneously. And that's how she makes this play happen. All the conflicts are possible only because of that. And that is only because people believe this to be true. But she also gives this grace by which one can go back. And that grace is this inquiry itself. And when the grace is there, then the divine energy, the Divine Mother doesn't trouble anymore. That's why they say in a very rustic way, Ramakrishna used to give an example that someone in the village would put the cloak of a bear and go scare everyone. The moment you say, hey, you are not the bear, I know you, then that's it. They will not scare you anymore. They'll go away. So that's what the Divine Mother does. She is playing this game of scaring all. The moment we recognize, hey, it's you, then she stops bothering us. So to recognize that there is no me even in the me. The sense of separation rises forth also by the same divine energy. It is the divine that's coming up as the separation, which is the conflict, which is the ego, all of that. So when we recognize that that's what is the root of all conflicts and remain at that root, not come up as the tree, remain as the root, then the root dissolves into the ground. And a couple of important things that are worth repeating. One is this notion that I am many times caught in thought, and thought carries me away. Sometimes only I am able to stay with this. Many times thought carries me away and I get lost. So the important pointer there is to recognize that the only moment that matters is now. So if thought comes up now, if we are alert intensely, then in that alert presence, we can recognize the identity that is at the root of the thought. Whatever thought comes up, and as we can know, thought is like this monkey that's jumping everywhere, but the root of the thought is always some identity. I'm not going to think about something which is completely unconnected to me by definition. Whatever I think because I feel that it has something to do with me. So instantly, if we recognize the identity that is involved in the thought as the thinker, thought is there only as long as the thinker is there. So when we identify the thinker, which is also thought, thinker is thought, but thinker is thought that is superimposed on the sense of I am. So when we recognize this and we therefore recognize thinker and thought are one and the same, but the thinker is important because the thinker is superimposed on the sense I am. So we recognize the sense I am and we go to that sense I am and we stay there. And as Ramana Maharshi points out in Who Am I, Nanyar, he gives a beautiful metaphor of how a fort has, if you are trying to capture a fort and many enemies keep coming, each time the enemy comes, you slay the enemy. And the metaphor is given in this sense. It's not in controlling thought or in suppressing thought, but in persistently inquiring with each thought who is the thinker, and thereby getting rid of the thought and going to the source and abiding as the source. So the question was there, I seem to get carried away. The reason we get carried away is because first we are not alert, and second, it doesn't matter that we got carried away yesterday or even the last moment. All that matters is now. When we look at it clearly now and we look at it with alertness, then in that alertness, we come upon this sense of me and we stay as this energy and we abide there. Another related question someone asked also was, I've been practicing self-inquiry for 5 years, 10 years. I still seem to get caught in anger. I still seem to get caught in emotion. There again, the important thing to recognize is how the me has come up as an identity, as a seeker. And therefore, it thinks I am spiritual, I am a seeker, and I am not supposed to get angry, and I am therefore not making enough progress, or I am making some progress. I am comparing with another seeker and saying, oh, I am better than him, or I am worse than her. All of this movement, and then ultimately I compare with Ramana Maharshi or some great being like that and say, oh, I'm never going to get that because he is so perfect. I am so. All of this narrative is there only because I believe myself to be the seeker, which is an identity. Again, just as all the identities we talked about, now one more gets added, which is I am a seeker. So then that becomes a driving force, and it becomes another, in fact, a very massive ego sometimes. So that's why the pointer there is, doesn't matter how many years we practice or how many years we came, there is no time involved. There may be someone who is doing this for 50 years and at the same point, because they are caught in the sense of me without looking, and there may be another person who just heard it the first time and they were so clearly looking at it, it instantly dropped right there. And that instant dropping is possible for the 50-year practitioner too, not because of 50 years of practice, but because in that moment we see it clearly. So it's not an accrual process, it is clarity now that matters. So there is nothing wrong in practicing for 50 years, but there's nothing great about it either. It is what it is. At the end of the day, what matters is only now. So when we listen to this, it is fresh and we look at it clearly, and we don't build a narrative story around progress and judgment on why am I still getting angry and why am I this and why am I that. None of that. But I just look at now and look at it in a fresh way and stay with this pointer alertly now. And the same thing with future. If we project, will I be like this tomorrow or next year? Tomorrow and next year will all come only as now. So all that matters is how am I now? If we are very, very particular, that is to say, very focused on this one simple point that all that matters is now. And now, if I am caught in an identity, what is that identity? And feel it and recognize the sense of me that's at the root of that identity and remain as that, and thereby be free of this identification. That's all there is. So with all of this, if we say, when we say look inward, this is what it points to. Looking inward means looking at the source, looking at this false center. And then the beautiful thing is, it also can be done while relating to people. It's not just when I'm sitting silently. It's great, of course, to sit silently, to be in satsang like this, where we are all collectively sitting silently and looking at it together. But even when I am relating to the world, relating to people who are, as someone said, acting irrationally, let's say, people who are, we are driving in the road and we are having a bad incident. We had a, so we have some interesting experience with, let's say, lawyers, right? We have experience with tax people, whoever it might be. There people may have this come about in different ways. All of this is, as I was sharing earlier, fierce grace, because every time someone acts irrationally, something goes wrong, challenges come. Instead of blaming them, if you are blaming them, if you are complaining about them, then we are caught in the identity. And we say, why is it happening to me? We may have all these questions. So I am very spiritual. Why is it happening to me? You will feel even more superior or even more offended because of that. Or you'll say, oh, I need to now pray for grace, as if grace is something that can come from somewhere. Instead of all of that, if we just look at the fact that, okay, in a relationship, if something comes up, anger comes up, frustration comes up, jealousy, comparison, anything comes up, to remain not identified with it, to not give in to it, but at the same time not suppress it, saying it's wrong or anything, but just say that it is there. It is the fact of this moment. And that is there because of the sense of me. It is, anger is coming because I am identified with something, and that identification is there because of the sense of me. It's instantaneous. It doesn't require time. We recognize instantly the movement of me that is coming forth as an identity, which is then comparing, envying, getting angry, all the rest. It's one movement. So if we recognize that, and therefore we are just aware of it, we are aware of the anger, aware of the envy, aware of the comparison, without giving into it, even in a relation, in a discussion, in a conversation, when I'm listening, for instance, if a voice is coming, judging the other person, judging myself, comparing with what I know earlier, all of that comes up. If I'm able to look at it clearly, and in the very looking clearly, it's put aside. I recognize that it is the psychological past that's interfering with the listening. Listening only requires the functional content of what is being spoken. As we were discussing earlier, even in a work meeting, so many work related conversations are spoiled because of the psychological self, wanting to claim credit for an idea, or not accepting someone's idea because it's coming from a person I don't like. There are so many factors that come, even in science, in physics, which is supposed to be the most rational field. There are so many ideas that don't get enough credit because people have biases, and it takes a while. So in any realm of a human activity, it matters to be very aware. So when people are acting irrationally, or what we think is causing, provoking anger or frustration or disappointment or anything in us, look at what's causing this and recognize the sense of me that is at the root of all of this. And by that very awareness, I don't give in to that. Then I listen only from the ground of the factual content of what is being shared. And the psychological content is seen and thereby put aside. The very seeing of it puts it aside, and I'm just listening totally. And that is to be listening with awareness, talking with awareness, engaging with awareness. On that note, we have a couple of questions. One is how to share a positive experience without the sense of I. So, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that the best sharing is being, right? Sharing cannot be done in any other way except through being. And the best way, therefore, is to listen to someone and through the listening, show the true ground of love that is there. See, when we engage in any conversation with anyone, now the intent behind this question is, let's say we have a child who we want to expose them to this wisdom, or we have someone at work we care about but they are not interested, but we want to expose them. If we preach to them, they are not going to be interested in it. If we talk about philosophy, if we talk about this, right? So the best way to recognize this is just by giving them undivided attention, which is completely non-judgmental. When we are, it's as shared, the rarest thing is to be in company where there is no judgment, right? And just to, when, and everyone senses it, when you are in a company where there is no judgment, where there is no comparison, then that very company seems the most beautiful thing. And we naturally seek that company, not because of anything else, but just the joy of being in that company. So that being that company is the greatest way to share. When we say share without a sense of I, it is through engaging without any division, giving total attention with unconditional love, with no judgment. When we this way we relate to people, whether it be young or old, whoever it is, then that attitude of total attention, which is also, which can be called as service, true seva or service, is again nothing but absence of self-centeredness. As long as there is self-centeredness, then there is no seva. There is only the me that wants something out of it. When the me is absent, there is seva. But the me is there. So that's why it's important to be aware of it. We are not trying to deny or suppress anything even. If the me rises as judgment or as fragmentation, if I'm very alert and aware of it and thereby not given to it, then it's put aside just by that alert awareness. And there is total attention. And when there is total attention, there is love. And the expression of total attention and love is service. As someone said very nicely, we have this word in English, affection, right? Which is actually a beautiful word because you are affected by the other person. Right? And that's what is affection. So I'm in your presence. When there is no me, only then you will totally affect me. That is your presence. There is no division between you and me. So whatever you say affects, and that's affection, and that is love. And that affection or that affecting is not possible when there is a filter, which is the me, which is seeing what can I get out of this. For me to be completely receptive, only then I can be affected fully, affected in a nice way, as affect. That's the root of the word affection. Affection means love, and affection is to be affected completely without division. And that is the best way to share. There's one more question. How does one live in freedom when dealing with images of what other people have of you and themselves? Yeah, that's the last question. How does one live in freedom when dealing with images of what other people have of you and themselves? So, see, the important thing, it's a very good question, because many times, even when we are aware, people are having their own projection of an image, and they portray and they project that image onto us, and they expect us to conform to the image they carry of us, even if we have no image of them. So then what's the way to relate to such situations? The first and most important thing to recognize is to conform to anyone else's image is not love, right? It is only pleasing their ego. When we try to satisfy the image that they have of us, then we, by that very action, get caught in the me ourselves. So that's why it again goes to the difference between love and attachment. If you are attached to something, and if we feel that, let's say we have a close connect, close relation, and let's say they have a very strong image, and we feel that their image will be hurt by me saying something, then wanting to not hurt their image is an attachment of a different kind, where we are aware of the image they carry. Then in the process, what we are doing is we are having an image in an indirect way of ourselves as someone who will not hurt their image, right? So that's why when we relate to anyone, if we are relating from this place of no center, no me, that is, then the response rather of that moment has clarity with a strong and clear sense of agency of that moment. It is not then to please them in any way. It is not to satisfy their images, their, and that is actually the greatest service we can do to them too. When we keep meeting other people's demands and images, we are only strengthening their image. If someone is having a particular, even if you take a close relation, and they have a strong expectation of me to do something, and I keep meeting that expectation because I feel that's the way I can keep them happy, I'm actually not keeping them happy, I'm only strengthening their image. And thereby, their ignorance is only deepened, their sense of me is deepened. So, we spoke about fierce grace uh, that we may receive through things that go, and sometimes our action can be a source of fierce grace for them. Not because we intend to be that way, but we act out of the clarity of this moment. And that clarity may not be acceptable to the other person. But if the clarity is not coming from a center, it is not coming from the sense of me, then that very action, while it may be disturbing to the other person, it can shake their image, right? And that can actually open them up to their own attachment if they are ready for it. If they are not ready for it, then it may take whatever time it takes for them to be ready for it. But at least we are clear that we are not trying to conform to their images, please them, and all of that, right? The pleasing, the word please and pleasure come from the same root, right? It is gratification that is at the root of pleasing others. To try to please others is to give in to their sense of pleasure seeking. So, and in that process, we are actually strengthening their sense of me. We are actually hurting them by pleasing someone. But if we are, that's why when we are attached, we please someone. But when we love, we don't please someone. We just respond with love. And that may or may not be pleasant, but it will be the right response, right? It will be for their good. It may not be, as the Sanskrit words said in Kathopanishad, it may not be prayas, but it is shreyas. So prayas means that which is pleasing, shreyas means that which is good. So many times they are at odds with each other. Right? Even at a very simple level, sugar is very pleasing, but it's not good for us. Right? So in the same way, there are many things which are pleasing but not good. And it's true with this situation. It's a very good question because many times we think we are looking at the center and free of the me and all of that, but then in an indirect way we let it come back by trying to please others, by trying to cater to the images that others have. In the process, we create an image for ourselves as someone who pleases them. If we are free of any image, then we respond. That's why I think we shared yesterday, right? If it's an interesting quote, but it's true that if you're predictable, you're not free. So to be, if we are, that is to say, it is the image that wants to predict, right? If someone has an image of you and they want to predict this is how you will be, and they want you to conform to that. And if you keep meeting their prediction, then you're not free. You have to be what you are from the clarity of what is, and not be predictable to others based on what they project. So when we are clear and we respond out of that clarity, then that very response is the greatest act of love, even if it is tough love. Sometimes love can be tough love. Sometimes it can be gentle love, but regardless, it's love when it's coming from no center. So to act out of that clarity, which is free of the center or which is aware of the center. See, when we are aware of the center, we are free of the center. That is the important thing. It's not something, that's why one of the important pointers here is it's not a goal in time where say one day I'll be self-realized and then I'll be free of the center, and that's the way the mind thinks. But you can be free now by being aware of it. It is being unaware that makes it run your life unconsciously. When I'm aware of it, then I'm free of it. It's very in various ways. So if something is triggers me emotionally, if I'm unconscious, the trigger carries me, right? If I'm aware that I'm triggered, why am I triggered? I'm triggered because I'm attached to this. Then I see that clearly. And in the very seeing, I am not that anymore. I'm free of that attachment right there. So, in this way, if you are very alert, then that very alertness and the ability to look at the center frees us from the center. And we simply respond out of the clarity of being aware of the center, aware of the me. And in this way, if we act, then that action comes forth from the clarity of that seeing, which is then not anymore trying to please anyone, but it is truly from the ground of love. So then we can engage with anyone with love, and they respond as they respond, but we always only naturally have this mood of serving others with love, and however they perceive it, that is not our concern. You had a question?
Yeah, I was asking that if the person is not taking it as a love,
Yeah,
whatever we are saying,
correct,
out of love, and they don't think it's
correct.
love, what do you do in that case?
Yeah, so that's not your concern anymore, right? See, of course, if they are going to be, there are situations where people can be physically hurtful or um, causing material constraints of some kind, right? And in those situations, of course, one has to step away from it or do whatever is necessary. But beyond that, if they don't see it as love and they are affected by it, then we just don't try to please them and make them feel good, right? Because that very endeavor is coming forth from the desire to be liked, right? The me wants to be liked by others. So as long as I want to be liked by others, then I'm going to try to, if someone doesn't like me, then I want to do something to change the situation. But if I don't care about whether I'm being liked or not, as long as I'm acting out of this clarity, then if they don't perceive it as love, they don't perceive it as love. We, in our heart, we have love, and we, if they are ready, we'll share this, the deeper wisdom behind it. If they are not ready, we still engage with them with love. And the next moment, the amazing thing there is, see, if we don't carry anything from that to the next moment, then that itself will tell them that we don't harbor anything, right? So like we were discussing, finish it and forget it, right? If let's say I say something that seems hurtful to you, and you feel that you are hurt because you are attached to something. If I try to please you by saying no, 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 then I'm trying to play to an image, right? But if I don't bother with it, but at the same time, I don't carry anything that you are hurt, and the next moment you say something, I give you full attention as if nothing happened. That's freedom, right? Then that very attention tells them that there is no animus here of any kind. It is just a response to what is. So there are, and you'll see this in, I mean, there are many who live this way. It's not that grace is always gentle, right? I mean, even in great sages, we've seen there are many who are very harsh sometimes, but then the next moment there is no carrying over of that, right? If you're not ready for it and you're hurt and you walk away, then that's what it is, right? But at the end of the day, if we carry hurt, that is entirely our problem, right? And I can only hold a mirror, but you have to see it.
So does accepting mean you behave in the way the other person is wanting you to behave?
No, that's why exactly we are saying. It's accepting means we accept whatever is and we respond out of that acceptance. Now, if they don't like that, that is what it is. We don't try to, if we try to please and change my response based on whether they like it or not, then I'm not acting out of the clarity. I'm acting to please them. Then that's again the same ego coming in me to try to please their ego. Just accept and respond fully and forget it. That's all.
And if I'm angry and I'm aware that I'm angry, but my actions can still be governed by my anger, is it possible? Or maybe I'm not actually aware.
That's right. See, if you are fully aware, then your anger dissolves in that awareness, right? But if you are, that's very good point actually. Sometimes there is an awareness that anger is rising, but still the anger has such power that I'm acting out the anger even when there is a partial awareness. That's still not totally being aware, right? If you are fully aware, then there is just awareness, and the anger does not have ground to sprout. Then you are not the anger anymore. See, at that moment you are the anger. When the anger rises, you are the anger, right? But the moment you are aware of that, then in that very awareness the anger dissolves. When you are fully aware, then the anger that comes, it seems to come and it just withers away. But if you're only partially aware, or there is anger rising, but still there is this impulse to act on it, then that's not total awareness.
Is that true for thoughts too? If you get these thoughts,
Yeah.
and you think that you resolve them, and then after some time they keep popping up again, does that mean then that you really did not resolve them? Like when you look at a thought and you realize, okay, I am not this thought, you let it go. At that moment, it's gone, right? But then either a few minutes later or a few days later,
That's
the same
okay.
thing comes up again,
Yeah.
right? So does that mean then that each time that you have not done it properly, or is that a different?
See, there's a
Look,
difference
right?
between the two in the sense that, see, when you see something and it dissolves, sometimes it can have such great momentum that it comes back again, that you see that again clearly. For example, if someone is very invested in any image, let's say, right, there are some who are very identified with, let's say, take for example religion. Now you see once that this identification is causing division, causing hate and all that, and then in that moment there is freedom. But because that identification is so strong, it can come back again. But when it comes back again, you again see it with the same intense clarity and awareness, and it goes. At some point it just goes, because you recognize that this is just constantly coming back only because I've believed something to be true. But in reality, then you look at the whole world and you see that all of this is happening because it is the false belief in thought that is causing all this identity. And when you recognize this, then in that very recognition, sometimes it can drop away fully. See, other important thing that's why to recognize is that there is nothing that you are uniquely going through, right? Everyone is going through. The mind when it rises as me, is going through all of this, and it is the content of consciousness that is coming forth as all of this. Whether it's, that's why, there is, as I said earlier, there is no difference between the fanaticism of two opposing parties. Even though they think they are diametrically opposite, they are actually exactly the same. Similarly, with even personal issues, we see, you travel a lot, you see everywhere people are attached, people are insecure, people are afraid of death, people are um, comparing, keeping up with the Joneses, or whatever we say in each country. So all of this, you know, literally is there in every culture. So what you are is the world itself. Right? There is no separate, there is nothing unique about your, when it comes to the psychological domain, there is nothing unique about your problems or your suffering or your thoughts and your misery. None of that. It's, everyone is having this, right? So it's entirely non-personal. And when you recognize this, and it's silly, right? When you look at it this way, you recognize the silliness of it. You see, everyone, you go to any, you go to a, like I always say this, I was in Tiruvannamalai, and the coconut vendor who's in front of the ashram, she doesn't like the next coconut vendor. She thinks, so she's comparing herself with the next coconut vendor. And the billionaire compares with the next billionaire. It's the same thing, right? The $1 billion haven't made any difference in the consciousness of the person. So it is absolutely no difference between the quality of consciousness of the coconut vendor and a billionaire. They're exactly the same. So then you recognize that there's nothing personal about all this. It's the human condition. And that, when you recognize this and see the silliness of it, that it is, what is in the world is what is you. There is only the world mind. There is no such thing as your mind and my mind. There is the world mind, which is what does all this. And all of it is rooted in the same one seed, which is this false separation. And you recognize this, and you don't anymore identify with it. You are aware of it, and you stay as it. Then you recognize the natural compassion that comes forth. If someone is going through this, they are swimming in the same waters of me and identity and all the rest we talked about. So it's not out of any volition that they are doing all the stupid things they are doing. They are just doing because they are helplessly pulled along by this illusion of the me. And when you are recognizing the same movement here and there, and you are free here, then that freedom gives them the freedom too.
Is it moment to moment to be aware of, or like, is it like once you're aware, like there's no coming back again?
No, it's
Going aware and
see, moment to moment is again, we are trying to again project just now. That's it. See, what is now is all that matters. If you say every moment, moment to moment, all of this is trying to say something about how I will be next moment and all that, right? So is there total attention this moment? if you stay with that question now, that's enough. And that now is always now, right?
There's no
Correct.
being aware and then coming back again.
Right. If you step out of it because of conditioning, because of what, when you recognize that, that can happen only now again. And when you recognize it, you recognize this false identification, and being aware of it, you step out of it now. Right? Don't, if you try to project that, okay, I will get it now and then it will never come back, all of this is again projecting time, right? So that's why being aware, alert, still is intense, total attention. See, when you're totally attending to, you're talking to someone, let's say, when there is total attention, then in that attention, everything is seen. But if I'm just talking to you, but I'm thinking about something, I'm then judging you, then and then there is dissipation of energy, right? And then I say that, okay, I'll be aware, and then once I do that, then that's it, right? But that's not, that's again thought trying to project that, okay, I will get it, and then it will remain like this. But the thing is, there is nobody even now to get anything. That's the whole point. There is attention, but nobody attending. But that idea that I am here as a center that's attending is what's causing the division. So if you're aware of that very fact, that there is a center here as me that's coming up and causing all this judgment and all the other things we talked about, and thereby be free of it, then there is total attention. And that attention is dynamic, right? That's why truth is dynamic. God is not a static entity that you, that's why, when we have an image of, this is the inner reason behind saying that you cannot capture God in an image, because God is not static, right? God is the most dynamic presence. How can you capture that presence in an image, right? So it has to be total, alive, dynamic presence. And in that, there is no center, no me.